Hey, how you guys doing? How you guys doing? What's up? Listen, and next up, we have my man. I just talked to him. He's a great human being. Devin Cleary, head of global events CyberArk. Over the course of his career, Devin has earned a formidable reputation as a trailblazing brand marketer and change agent. Ladies and gentlemen, start clapping your hands right now. Start clapping your hands right now and give it up for the one and only Devin Cleary.
Oh, thank you so much, Alec. And again, hello, all you guys, gals, and non-binary event pals. I am pumped to be here today, and thank you so much for having me, Gregory Event Services. This is a true honor. So jumping right in, I'm going to speak to you today about the power of playbooks and some of my top tips and tricks of how I have been successful and managed global teams around the world over the last 18 years. A little bit about myself. I've had the privilege and sort of consider who I am as a Renaissance event professional and leader. These are some of the photos of brands I've had the privilege of servicing and leading their global events teams, really shaping everything from road shows to field marketing, to large user conferences, to B2B content syndication, to social media and so much more, and really specializing in experiential activations. Currently, right now, I sit in a role where I lead in a cybersecurity organization. We are the leader in identity security called CyberArk. And again, speaking to you today, I think it's really important that we jump off that you also understand kind of what my current portfolio looks like as I share these playbooks. So first and foremost, I lead over 150 events worldwide every single year annually for the current organization that I have the honor of serving. We have a breakdown about 55% owned around our budget and sort of our scope, and the remaining is 45% in terms of third party. So like tier one sponsored industry events that we go to that are sort of seen and managed by our collective team around the world. But again, I'm not here to talk about myself. I'm here to share some amazing actionable tips and tricks with you today. And again, without further ado, I'm going to roll out some of my top 4 proven playbooks to help you become the fastest, best possible event professional for FY25 and beyond. So jumping in right now, we're going to start with playbook number 1. And this is all about getting the green light. All of us have the opportunity and the challenge of having to get our budgets approved, secure our strategic visions, making sure that our portfolio is signed off on and we are aligned across our businesses globally, worldwide. So how do we do that? And what are some of my proven tips and tricks to help set you up for success? I'm not going to focus so much today, though, on the actual pitch and the actual budgeting process. I'm actually going to share sort of the earlier stage of what are some instructional tips that you should be taking to really, truly be successful. And my number 1 tip right now for this playbook is really about investing in relationships. So one thing I'm going to share with you today that I have done across my career over the last decade, specifically, especially in B2B marketing, is something very simple. And I call these executive experience profiles. All of us have a senior leadership team that we report to, that we have to work with, that we have to get buy-in. And it's really important that we do some of a investment legwork prior to actually doing a lot of the actual asking of itself. And today, this is kind of the different profiles or questions that I create. So I actually, at the onset of every year, depending if we have new talent, new executives that join our workforce or organization, I actually ask them a series of questions and have detailed one-on-ones with these executives. And these are the same standard questions that I ask across the board every single time, and I'm passing them along to you today. Question number 1 is around communication preference. So again, does this executive prefer to receive updates via a Slack or messaging component? Are they more email prone? Do they prefer to have face-to-face conversations? Question number 2 is all about what are the most important metrics for that executive. Because again, if you really know what they care most about, you can really tailor your updates and your conversations to them in the future. Question number 3, how do you build trust with these executives? How are other individuals successful within the business to advocate for additional headcount or budget and beyond? So really asking that specific question and getting something from every single executive is really going to help you have a full picture comprehensively of what and how you should navigate moving forward. Question number 4 is around the tolerance and risk. I love this question. Ask your executives, are you more conservative in nature? Would you like us to see taking more chances as an events organization? How bold should we be in some of those investments? And again, where do you sort of fall on a spectrum? Question number 5, Ask them this question: what is the best event they've ever attended? What made it memorable? What made it incredible? It could be I don't know, a smaller, more intimate gathering, a larger industry conference based on their role and what they're responsible for and reporting back to in the company. But hearing how they've assessed that, how they've looked at those environments and sort of dissected the other events they've went to, you're starting to understand the psychology behind how they think and what they look for and truly what defines a successful event. And then again, number 6 is getting to know them more on the personal level. How do you actually, again, understand what their family dynamic life is? If they have hobbies outside of this, is there something that you can connect with them on so you start to build rapport before you jump headfirst into business discussions, requests, and practices? Are they on professional boards? Do they support a nonprofit that you might have a connection to? And then last but not least is a lot of the executive staff, they are aiming to potentially one day take the helm of the current existing executive director or president. So asking them, if they were CEO today, what would they do differently? What would they invest more in? What would they change or de-invest across the business? And then again, we take these experience profiles, I document them, and I actually distribute these across the events team. So if I have net new talent coming into our organization, this is an amazing way to onboard them incredibly successfully before you just sort of throw them into a meeting, or if they're engaging with these executives, they know exactly what they're walking into. And now, as a result of that, you really understand the nuances. What executives are more similar, what executives are different in their sort of behavior or what they look for. And it's going to, again, set you up for greater success moving forward. So that is the first step in this playbook. The second step in this playbook is what I sort of call insider access. So once you have these profiles and you've actually asked these questions and you sort of have these answers by executive, I want you to also really invest in potentially identifying an executive sponsor within this ELT, this executive leadership team. In the past, I have sort of leaned into 2 different individuals or sort of title types. I've either leaned into the chief financial officer, so the CFO, or the COO, the chief operating officer, because they have a lot of influence and a lot of oversight across the business. You need to lean in, and this is the person you're going to work more closely with, where you're going to show them event plans. You're going to ask them for feedback or ideas in advance before you go in front of their peers. Because again, you need a gut check before you're just pitching your annual plans, your budgeting, your headcount needs, and they're going to give you some really good, strict insight of what's possible, what's not, what's going on across the business. They're really your mole and the individual that can tell you a lot of other things that might not be, again, public knowledge. So again, investing in that relationship, having quarterly or monthly check-ins with that executive, that will serve you dividends in the long run, time and time again. And I cannot emphasize that enough in terms of how successful you will be if you sort of, again, embody this model and replicate that within your own organization, regardless of size and scope. Now, the last thing I also call out is let's not forget about executive assistants. They hold a lot of power and a lot of influence within an organization. So when we think about those experience profiles, I want you to also conduct that same exercise with EAs. How do they prefer to be spoken with? What is their communication preference? How often do they want updates? You have to really think and actively and proactively ask these questions and set these guidelines so that you are meeting their expectations. I will tell you this time and time again, they are not going to volunteer that information more often than not. You really need to make sure that you're coming to them and showing the level of investment, that you care, and that you're not looking at them as not equal to their ELT partner that they support, because a lot of times they are the ones responsible for getting a lot of the work across the threshold. So having your buy-in or having their buy-in for you is going to, again, elevate your ability to accelerate approvals and get things across the threshold. And they're also probably going to share things with you that the executives will not, but if you have a good relationship, they will disclose details that you will never knew even existed. And again, my final tip is that National Administrative Professionals Day is coming up on April 24th. So again, create something nice, write a nice thank you note, deliver something to them, and really acknowledge them as the humans that they are and make them feel heard and seen within the business, because a lot of times they are viewed as the wizard behind the curtain. And it's important to, again, acknowledge them and tell them that you see them, that you appreciate them, and that you value their true professional partnership. All right, so now we're going to talk about step number 3 in this playbook. And this is more advice versus actionable tips and tricks. I also want you, when you think about the ways that you are pitching your business strategy, your event ideas, again, headcount, investment levels, budget, whatever you want to call it, I really want you to sort of get into this mind share of thinking like a politician. Because again, and I know Bethany and others are going to acknowledge this and already sort of talked about this in their previous talks over day one and today, which is we are such a exposed cross-functional department. We work with everyone across the business. And just like a politician, we have to think like a lobbyist. We have needs and requirements and goals. And in order to get those achieved, we have to really make sure that we are getting everyone on board and getting decisions and answers to all the questions and all the ideas and the strategies that we're bringing forward to the business. So this is just some things to think about as you leave today's talk. I want you to really do a self-audit right now of the types of skills you're leveraging or that you should be mindful of. And again, you lose what you don't use. You need to make sure that you are thinking, am I using these skills on a daily basis? The first is social astuteness. Do you understand the challenges, the fears, the hopes and dreams of the individuals you're pitching your ideas to? And not just executive, it could be VP, directors, any peers on the product side across your business, okay? Do you understand what makes them tick and what they really care about? Number two, your ability to network. More than anyone else, event professionals are social butterflies. We have to establish really strong rapport across the business. And by the way, it's not about what's good for you. How can you make others look good? How can you give shout outs in your staff meetings, in your work streams, make them acknowledge, put the profile on them so they truly feel like, wow, thank you for acknowledging all the hard work that I'm bringing forward and not just the events team. Number three is image management. Are you visible within your organization? Are you volunteering for an ERG? Are you working in other projects and initiatives out of the core construct of what your job description lists and your responsibilities? It is so important that you're visible outside of just the events you're responsible for, so that again, you're building relationships, you're getting visibility, credibility across the business. Number four, we're doing this right now. We're practicing public speaking. We are giving a presentation. You have to be able to really command a room, express energy and passion, and show these executives you care. And again, if that's half the battle also. When you show that enthusiasm, they want to support you. They want to put dollars with someone that's going to put it to great use and that they know cares deeply about the organization and the discipline in which they oversee. And then last but not least, managing up. How many individuals are you managing up right now? How do you impress your superiors? How do you take copious notes and summarize them in very high succinct messages after the fact so that you're keeping people in the know? You're giving, again, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly updates. You're talking about the successes of your programs. You're being introspective on the challenges and the opportunities facing your division. All of that is really going to, again, make you the true politician that will carry you across the threshold and make you successful in getting a yes across the board every single time. And my last tip around this playbook number one is think about creating a focus group in your business. There are other champions. There are other rock stars or superstars within your business. Bring them over to the event side, have them look at your plans, have them pick them apart, get them in a room, ask them for feedback, because guess what? If they're all respected and some of the most highly productive people in your business, and now they are ambassadors or champions on your program, it's just going to, again, foolproof your approval rating and getting that green light like we just talked about. So again, that is playbook number one. Playbook number two that we're going to talk about today is my event framework. So these are frameworks that I have perfected, that I have created, that I have brought to organizations across my legacy and sort of my career in B2B technology. And I'm going to start off with sort of the three most basic things that I would encourage you all to consider and potentially adopt moving forward. When I'm thinking about planning, when I'm thinking about putting together a strategic vision for an event, whether a user conference, whether a sponsored program, I always emulate and model these three different frameworks. Framework number one is what I call the M spot. And I actually developed this and pioneered this when I was at HubSpot. The M spot stands for mission, strategy, playbook, omissions, and targets. This is a single PowerPoint slide where you lay these elements out and you clearly define the entire construct of your event so that if you were to give this to your CEO or to anyone else in the business, they can see in one very concise snapshot what this event's about, what it stands for, what it's not going to do. Again, omissions are so critical in our event world. Sometimes we only focus on the things we want to invest in, and we actually do not document the things that we will not do at this event. Like, we will not have employees, we will not spend this on this. And that's really critical when you think about a comprehensive pitch. The next major thing that I want to talk about is, you've all heard of like the RACI model, et cetera. I think there's a flaw in that because there's a lot of nuances and there's a lot of confusion that can happen between what the roles really are and who's the ultimate decision maker. So I created what I call the DUC model, and that is absolutely after a duck. And what I do is I simplify this and I use these 4 letters of these acronym, where it stands for drivers, ultimate approvers, contributors, and key stakeholders. If you outline your different work streams, your roles and responsibilities in this model, it will minimize confusion, which I've seen roughly between 25 to 35% less emails, less phone calls, and less meetings having to clarify things when you're deep in planning sessions for different organizations. And then last but not least, we all probably do this already, but I'm just going to acknowledge, anytime we have an event over a certain threshold, size, budget, we always execute what I call the weekly work streams. These are people that are identified from the DUC model, and now we bring them into a physical, in-person, digital checkpoint every single week. We rotate different questions. We have them report on their progress. We have them verbally in front of a group talk about their dependencies, their obstacles, what's holding them back. And that way the entire planning group, the extension of the business, can see where we need to jump in and help them. You do not need to overcomplicate planning. And again, a lot of times people are so busy and have so much contradiction behind them. We need to make sure that you're streamlining and really simplifying this planning process. So again, these are my kind of 3 different approaches to planning at a high level, if you will. The next thing is about event leaders ourselves. So for all of you on this call who manage event professionals, who have a team, what are some of my tried and true best practices to make sure that we deliver servant leadership, that we are democratic in management style, we give voices to our colleagues, we allow them to lead certain programs. In planning, I always make sure that we have mission statements, we have an annual strategy board that I create, and again, always an MSPOT framework on what are our goals and what are the things we're trying to achieve, and how does that trickle down to every person on this team, from an event marketer to a content leader to a registration manager, whatever, sponsorship salesperson, whatever you want to call it. Next is organization. People need face time with us. People need to make sure that we're involved and heavily invested. We need to do a monthly executive update with all of our senior VPs and above. We have detailed project briefs. We have templates so that we are, again, balancing and we're copying things over so it doesn't look different based on the person presenting it. And we have a consistency that we're conditioning across the business so people know what to expect. We have event work streams, like I already mentioned. On the leading side, I will always do weekly check-ins. I have a goals and growth review. So we're not just only talking about projects, but I'm also speaking to my colleagues and making sure that I, as an event leader, am helping them expand their scope, their visibility across the business, and also opening up new professional opportunities. I will orchestrate monthly or quarterly team outings so that we can, again, dissect, we can relax, we can meditate, we can kind of connect as a group and really make sure that our personal relationships are very strong before we go into busy and stressful event seasons. And then also make sure that you do not fail on this last one, recognition. How do you give recognition to your team, give visibility, give shout outs across the business, and make them feel acknowledged all the way from the CEO down to, the front desk clerk. And then last but not least, development. I make every single person on my team have a passion project that is outside of the core event. So whether they join another department, they help support a different initiative, it helps them get involved in other aspects of the business and see how other components are operating and modeled. I also set every single team member up with a mentor in the industry. So I will find someone in the industry and I will pair them with someone else externally outside of the 4 walls of their current company to give them visibility and give them points of view outside of what they're getting at the current company that employs them. I also give them some presenter coaching opportunities, and I also create a value scorecard. So the values of your business, I actually put that into performance reviews, which is additive from a requirement from HR, and I rate them using a weather system. So sunny, partly sunny, cloudy, lightning storm, and I really make them aware of how they are displaying and behaving and operating every single day. And giving them those ratings, it really makes them mindful of the types of values they're demonstrating and representing the corporate events team. And then this is also how we measure success. So there's 5 major categories. We've got the traditional event targets, and the only thing that I would call out here is instead of ROI, we've really made a shift to ROO, which is return on objective. And there's a whole model that we can talk about later on if there's any Q&A. But that's the first piece. The next piece is the business impact, the actual ways that we can say we sourced X number of dollars, pipeline, meetings, et cetera, amongst our executive team. And then these are some other things at the bottom that I want to make sure you're thinking about holistically. The business might care about the business metrics and the ROI, but it is our job as leaders and professionals that we are also focusing on employee satisfaction. How are our employees feeling engaging with our events? How is our own team? Are we getting turnover? Are we seeing their mood shift? Like, how do we support them and make sure that that is held accountable, just like we need to drive a certain level of pipeline and money? And then level of knowledge and learning. I actually do an assessment mid-year every year with my team. And I say, what are the skills or what are the things that you have felt you've acknowledged, you've grown in, you've accelerated, you've net new added to your knowledge bank, to force them to make sure that they know it's coming and that they better be learning and better be up-leveling their own jobs to benefit themselves in the future. And then last but not least, doing a time audit after your major events. Where are your time wasters? Where did you spend, what were some of the nuances that came up that were not expected, so that you can plan for that better next time and optimize? Because again, I'll tell you right now, and I'm guilty of this too, an event's over and boom, we're moving on to the next one. You've got to do that post-con. You've got to do that analysis and make sure that you are modifying your time allotments, your calendar blocking, when meetings are supposed to be happening, how long meetings should be, your agendas in those meetings. Make sure that all of that is templatized, all of that is being optimized, and that you're measuring that on a continuous basis to help make sure that your team is efficient as possible. All right, moving on to playbook number 3. And this is one that I feel, and I really was passionate to present this today because I do feel like this is something that goes on under radar more often than not when we're so busy in all the planning cycles and things that we're doing. How are you proactively planning and anticipating crisis management on site at events or things that could potentially happen? And I'm going to give you a surefire framework. It is 4 easy steps that I want you to integrate leaving this presentation today into your daily planning and sort of future strategic sessions with your team. So step number 1 is I want you to create an actual contingency team. Use that verbiage, label that, document that down, and establish a hierarchy. Who is the ultimate decision maker? Who makes the call if something bad happens, if something wrong, occurs? What is that chain of command? And documenting that well in advance so you're not panicking on site or online, depending on the format of your event. And you make sure that those roles are very crystal clear using the DUC model, and everyone has a starting point that is extremely organized and well efficient. Number 2, create what I call the crisis grid. I do not want you spinning your wheels, and I do not want you drafting a bazillion different use cases that are going to just be impossible to all plan for or account for. So brainstorm, get into a room, and I want you to identify what are the 20 use cases that would have the most impact if it was to happen to negatively affect the outcomes of the success of your event. And I want you to give each of those 20 a rating scale of 1 to 5. 1 being it's no big deal, 5 being it is the end of the world, the event shuts down, we cannot move forward, and rate each of those. Then anything that receives a 4 and above, this is step number 3, you're going to narrow these priorities. And I want you to proactively, as part of your planning model and your planning life cycle, I want you to create what I call a contingency hackathon. And I want you to get every one of these individuals that you've identified as part of the contingency team in a room. And I want you to spend half a day. I want you to spend half a day to be able to, again, kind of go through this and plan it out. And then the final thing is a weekly exercise, which is, again, I want you to make sure that you're allocating different times and that you're, again, part of your work streams, or at least doing 30 minutes a week, addressing these different life cycles and whatnot. All right, and then the final playbook of this presentation today is my experiential footprint. And I'm gonna be quick because I think I'm running out of time and I wanna respect everyone's calendar today. But I know, again, I get very passionate. I love what I get to do every single day. So the fourth playbook is, what is my experience formula? Every time we're planning an event, there's so many ideas, there's so much brainstorming. How do you create an actual ingredients list that you can use to audit all of the things that you're doing? And my formula includes 5 major pieces: elements of fun, frustration management, surprises and delight. How do you build anticipation and create community? You should organize your planning, not just logistics and operations, but your experience around these different buckets. Do you have elements of fun? Are you minimizing confusion and frustration when they're getting email communications and instructions of getting ready for the event? How are they, again, being surprised? How do you build anticipation before the event's happening? And last but not least, what moments of connection are you allowing them to do and be functional with? So again, I am so honored I was able to share this today. Thank you so much for the time. I hope that you were able to take something away from this. And again, without further ado, I just want to say a big thank you to Lisa and the team for today's opportunity. And again, good luck, implement those playbooks, and let's see what you can come up with. Oh, sorry, Lisa, I think you're on mute.
That's awesome, Devin. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I think the biggest takeaway for me is when you're running user conferences, you are running a business, essentially, right? You're running a business, you cross-functionally. So you're not just in your lane, you're in all the lanes. Now I want to welcome Evan and Jess to the stage for community conversations. Devin, you're welcome to stay on since we don't have much time left. So Jess and Evan, if you want to click on. Thank you. All right.
Oh, Devin, that was amazing. I don't think I've ever seen the chat blow up quite like that. That was very impressive. Everyone's like, give me this deck now. So I think you definitely hit it out of the park. I want to take a second to introduce Evan, one of our most active members in the Event Professionals group. Evan, could you give a sec to just intro yourself?
Yeah, no worries. So I'm Evan. I'm from Toronto, Canada. I'm the event production manager at Scotiabank. We work on about 150 events a year all around North America and the Caribbean and to Europe. And I'm really excited to be here. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, of course. We're excited to have you here. I know I wrote down a couple of really fun points. One of which is like, Devin, it sounds amazing to work for you, pushing people to work on their passion projects. I absolutely love hearing stuff like that. But I also loved hearing about managing up. I think it's so often that we are dealing with these executive teams that is just such the wide range of personalities. And so it was really great to hear your tactics. Evan, did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I probably took about 1,000 notes during that session. Again, like everyone said in the chat, Devin, I want you to be my mentor for life. I think that was the big resemblance in the chat. Honestly, my biggest takeaway, Devin, and I appreciate everything you said, was I never really thought about the concept that you have about thinking like a politician, like being that lobbyist, getting everybody involved on board with what you need. And to me, like that was like my biggest takeaway. It was like, we do so many things within like our job description, but it's what's outside of that and who else do we need outside of our event team that will help us succeed and will help our event succeed. So for me, that was like, there was like a million things that I loved, but that was my number one takeaway.
Awesome. Well, again, it was my honor, and there's nothing better than all of us exchanging knowledge and inspiring the next generation of event professionals and how we can all work together to produce better events for the industry collectively. So again, it was my pleasure. And thank you both for all your support. And I look up to both of you. I think you're incredible event professionals. And I mean, Evan, especially the great social content you put out and all the things that I've learned from you over the professional tenure that we've had online and beyond. I mean, again, just, it's a real honor.
I appreciate that. Likewise.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Yeah, I really loved the sort of executive profiles as well. I thought that was really fun. And that's something you could share with so many people in your company, which is great. Like if you have a new hire, it's like, just read this and then get back to me. So yeah, we are going to move on to the next session. Thank you so much, Devin and Evan. We really appreciate you.